Welcome everyone to our webinar From Data to Insight. Um, my name is Raphael. Jeremy is also here. Jeremy is an expert around the diversity benchmarking and DE&I data. Jeremy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Jeremy. I'm working for the CCDI for I think 40 years now. As Raphael just said, I'm mainly involved in the high-scale diversity benchmarking, which we can have a brief look at it today in this session. And yeah, how about you, Raphael? Would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, of course. I'm Raphael. I'm at the CCDI for about 4.5 years. I'm working on projects related to equal pay analysis, but also projects around, like the diversity benchmarking. Whenever there is data involved, I'm usually part of the team. Just for your information, the next few minutes, it is content at the, let's say, beginner level. So if you already know more about diversity benchmarking or like diversity data analysis in general, it might be more of a refresher for you. So what do we want to have, or what do we want to look at in the next few minutes? We want to talk about the importance of data literacy. Why is it important, and what do we expect from such analysis? Then we want to make sure that we all understand key figures. What do we understand when we talk about key figures, or like what do we mean exactly? Then Jeremy will show you some examples with interpreting key figures and give some key takeaways. And most certainly we will have a few minutes left at the end for your questions. All right, the importance of data literacy. In general, it's easy to say we measure what we treasure. What do we mean with that? To get things done in your organization or in any organization, it is important to measure where we are, where do we stand, and also to understand if actions are needed. And in the end, if we don't measure that, then we don't know where we stand, and we don't know what actions we need, and that that would mean we don't get any resources to work with. So in the context of DE&I, what we measure, what we treasure. So what does it exactly mean, or what do we want to achieve? First of all, in the context of DE&I, we want to recognize inequalities. This is important because, for example, if you think about your recruiting processes or your promotion processes, if you don't have a situation where everyone has like equal opportunities, you might end up with people that getting promoted, for example, into positions, and those people might be good, but they might not be the best for that position. And so to recognize such inequalities, it helps your organization to have the best allocation from each employee to the best position where they fit the best. So what do we need exactly? We need key figures, or like we need those analysis to identify the fields of action. We need to know what are our strengths and where can we improve. And by measuring that with key figures, for example, we know where we can improve ourselves. Then if we repeat such analysis over the years, then we can see whether we make any progress or not. And that helps us to adjust our actions to reach the goals that we want to. Last but not least, such analysis, they also create transparency. So if you have let's say a strategy, or if you have any goals, then it is important to have transparency, and also it is important to be able to allocate responsibilities to respective managers, for example. And if we don't, if we are not able to measure that, or if we don't track that, there will be most likely no responsibilities. So all of this combined shows you that data literacy is important, because if you don't understand what you see or what you measure, all of this cannot be implemented correctly. Now, before you start measuring things and decide on any actions, we usually recommend the companies that we work with to have like a clear vision for your DE&I efforts. That vision, it should help you to clarify the purpose of your DE&I goals. And in that vision, you should be clear what are the benefits that you expect from DE and that from the steps that you take in DE and I. Based on those benefits, you can then build up, or like based on that vision, you can then build up a strategy. That strategy will set priorities. So you might not be able to work like all over the place, from gender to age to young talents, etc. So you need to set priorities to have enough resources to work on it. And within that strategy, you can also then decide what KPIs you want to monitor, you want to target, and that will also help to hold managers accountable. Like that's the thing we discussed before, that you need to have responsibilities to make any progress. In the first step, you can then define concrete actions which should help you to achieve the strategic goals in the end. Most companies that many companies that we see, they have already some implementations, but they usually lack the vision in general, where they want to go, or what are they hoping from their DE&I actions. When we talk about KPIs and monitor target achievements, you have like a bunch of methods that you can do or you can use. So you might start, or like an ideal start is, for example, if you look at your employee data. So each company has employee data available, and that's already a good start. So you can already see, for example, which group of employees is maybe more likely to leave the company, which group is more likely to get promoted, etc. So that's one thing you can do by yourself. There are also like third parties, like our diversity benchmarking. Those third-party services, it might be interesting. For example, if you want to compare yourself with your industry peers, so you know whether like issues that you might face are your own issues, or if that is like an issue that all the whole industry has to deal with. And it also can show you where are your strengths exactly compared to your peers, or where do your peers maybe perform better than you. So that might be also helpful to know where your areas are, where you could improve. Then in addition, now that you have evaluated your employee data, you might already see some fields where you could improve yourself. And now it's you basically need to know what is the underlying issue there. And here you have like various methods again, and these methods have their pros and cons. So for example, you could have focus groups. So you have like like the name already suggests, like a group of employees, and you talk with them about the various topics, the issues that you have, and you try to gain insights where the underlying issues are. Similar situation you have with interviews, where you can have like key stakeholders from your company. They might have like influence on the company's culture or like strong impact there on the culture, and such employees usually have also great knowledge and insights that might help you to find underlying issues to improve your DE&I goals. Those methods, focus groups and interviews, they are actually great tools because you can also see like people's reactions. You get probably more in-depth insights from there. However, you most likely will not be able to get the insights and perspective from your whole from all your employees. And there is another way to do that, to gain all the insights within your company, and that would be a survey. However, the downside of the survey would be that you cannot go into too much detail, because then the survey would basically be way too large. So there's like pros and cons to each of the methods, and based on the issues that you have, one or the other might be better suited. Last but not least, you also might be interested in equity analysis. So, for example, there are equal pay analysis. You can also do them by yourself. If, for example, Logip tool, you can also have like third-party services there, and also HR processes analysis. They might help you to identify like issues, potential issues in the process. So there, in those processes, you want to achieve like unbiased decisions, for example, and such a process analysis can help you to identify whether there are any problems or not. Basically, all of these methods, except for example, the diversity benchmarking, you can basically do by yourself. However, with third parties, for example, when it comes to focus groups, that might be then it might be the case that people might be not as open when they have to talk with representatives from their own company compared to representatives from an external company. So there is also a decision to be made whether you want to do it by yourself or you want to hire someone to do such interviews, analysis, etc. The diversity benchmarking, that's like the initial method that we also talked about. We have let's say, what is it about? So the diversity benchmarking, it is like the analysis of anonymized personnel data, and we move along the HR process. So we look at the recruiting process, or like the data when it comes to new employees hiring. We look at the career data, so who got promoted, and last but not least, we also look at retention. So we want to see there who left the company. We then create, based on that anonymized personnel data, we create different key figures along the diversity dimensions: age, education, employment percentage, gender, language, nationality, and all together will then be compared. Your results will then be compared to your industry peers, so that you know where you stand exactly. Last but not least, it is also possible to get an interpretation of the results and specific recommendations. So those recommendations are based on research, on papers that we read, that we also write ourselves, and so you get most likely like a different perspective on the topics that you or the issues that you might face in your organization. So we said that you will receive like a bunch of key figures, KPIs, when you, for example, participate in the benchmarking analysis, and to understand what do we mean actually with such key figures. In our definition, those are visual diagrams. They are pretty easy to understand. We will show you examples afterwards, and they show comparisons between groups or dimensions. Those key figures are calculated based on the employee data set that that you send us, that we receive, and last but not least, they also include like a comparison with the industry average. We then have key figures based on the diversity of the whole workforce. We have key figures based on the different employee life cycle steps, from recruiting to promotions to retention. The data that we analyze, that's pretty simple data. That's data that most likely every company can provide. So we have gender, birth year, hierarchy level, entry date, nationality, etc. And maybe if you already looked at this list, or you might recognize easily that other relevant dimensions are not included, such as sexuality, religion, etc. There's a simple reason for that, and the reason is that such information is sensitive information. That means employers are not allowed to actually be informed about such things from their employees, and they cannot include such information in the data sets that we analyze. However, there's still a possibility, if you're interested in the diversity of your organization in terms of sexuality, religion, etc., then it would be possible to have a survey, for example, because within a survey you can have those information in an anonymized way, and then it's no problem to get key figures based on such dimensions, diversity dimensions. Now I want to show you some examples of key figures. On the left side, you see the management new hires by gender. You see in the darker green shade, there is the percentage of women that got hired into management position in the previous year for our example company. And on the bottom bar, you can see the industry average as comparison. Here you can easily see that our company, our example company, they were able to hire more women into management positions compared to the industry average. On the right-hand side, you see promotions by age. So you have different age groups represented by the different colors. You can see the distribution of the promotions for your own company at the upper bar, and at the lower one you can see the industry average. In this key figure you can see, for example, that our example company, they promoted like more than 0.5%, or like every second promotion was for an employee older than 40 years, and that is much, or like relatively more compared to the industry average. Now, those might be already interesting insights for you. However, if you combine different key figures with each other, you might get much more insights. And at this point, I want to hand over to you, Jeremy, to show such examples.
Exactly. Thank you, Raphael. So Raphael showed you why working with data is important, especially when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. He also explained what data that we collect and analyze in benchmarking. And I would now like to show you how to interpret the data in such a way that you can gain the maximum insights from the analysis. I will do this with two specific practical examples or topics that company often have to deal with. And the first example I would like to look at you is as follows. We want to increase the percentage of young talent and hire more young employees. How well have we achieved this and where can we improve? Of course, this is a very specific case. It could just as well be that a company wants to rely on more on older employees, for example. It just depends on the current individual situation that your company is in. So in this example, we assume that we have many older employees and would like to attract more younger employees into the team and into the company. Below in this chart or in this slide, you have an overview of key figures that we can look at for this. We do have, for example, the key figure new hires by age, which one would think should already provide enough information. But like Raphael explained, to really have a good basis with which we can plan further measures, we need to we need to get more key figures that we can compare with each other. We look at the current distribution in the workforce by age group and differentiate between non-management and management. And we also look at the distribution in our new hires. The turnover rate is then, in my opinion, a very important in-depth key figure that we can also have a look at, because if we can show success with new hires, this means that we can attract young talents for our workforce through new hires. However, we also need to analyze who is leaving our company. And if we see that mainly younger employees are leaving the company, this, of course, relativizes the success of those who are joining us. So let's have a look at it on our platform Diversity Works. I hope you can all see the screen now. So first of all, this is the dashboard that we provide for those who participate in the high-speed diversity benchmarking. And as Raphael explained, it does not necessarily need to be this kind of dashboard. Also, internal dashboards can work to deep dive into a specific topic that you want to explore. But in this dashboard, we always compare my individual company results, which you can see here above, with the industry average. I can also change the view to alternate the comparison. So here I can, again, of course, anonymous, but I can see the individual results of the companies within my industry average. Here on the left side, we have the distribution by age in non-management positions. We see that over half of our employees in non-management positions is younger than 31 years old. This share is about 9 percentage points higher than in the industry average. So in these positions, we already have a quite young pipeline for the management positions, which we see on the right side. Here we see that in management positions, only 6.6% of my employees are younger than 31. A similar trend can be seen in the industry average as well. About a third of my management employees are older than 50, and these two key figures then reflect my age situation in my company, but or in my company's workforce, split it into non-management and management positions. So when we want to hire young talents, we probably mean management here, since our pipeline is already quite young, also compared to the industry average here. Now we scroll down a little bit and we can compare these four key figures, and we have a look at the new hires by age groups. So we compare the new hires with our current situation, which are the age distributions above that we have in our workforce. So in non-management, we can see that 2/3 of those who we hired in those positions are younger than 31. the situation that the majority of non-management positions or the people in non-management positions are under 31 is therefore intensified by our new hires this year. We see, however, that the industry average proportionally hires even more people younger than 31 in these positions. Looking at the management positions on the right, 17.6% of our management hires are younger than 31. This share is 11 percentage points higher compared to our current workforce in management positions. So furthermore, this share is also more than 5 percentage points higher than average. And if we go back to our initial question, we want to increase the percentage of young talent and hire more young employees. How well have we achieved this? We can say that we achieved it quite well because the share of the new hires below 31 exceeds our current share of those people in these positions. Of course, we need to pay a price for that, and that is unfortunately how distributions work. We see that especially the people over 50 are not much considered when it comes to the new hires. Only around 10% of my new hires in non-management positions and around 16% in management positions of my hires are over 50 years old. So if you want to hire young talents for management positions to make my workforce in management more diverse, this is of course what we want. But if you want to recruit as diversely as possible, we have to change something here. If you want to attract more diverse talents apart from these younger talents, for example. For time reasons, I won't go into detail when it comes to the turnover rates, but here we see in both non-management and management positions that my young talents have a lower turnover rate than the industry average. The 25 to 35 years olds here we can see in non-management they have a lower turnover rate than in the industry average. Same goes for the management positions. And in management, my young talents even have a lower turnover rate than those between 46 and 55. So I managed to keep my younger talents in these management positions. So the positive side, we attract young talents and we are able to keep them as well. When we go back to the slides, of course, there are more key figures available even for this specific case, but more important, however, maybe some of you might be asking, hey, it doesn't make sense for me to look at the diversity dimensions individually. For example, gender differences can also be identified in the age groups, for example, so keyword intersectionality. This is absolutely crucial, and we strongly advise you to look at the dimensions together and recognize differences within them. So a common intersectional approach between age and gender is, for example, the 31 to 40-year-old women. This age group is most considered for promotions, but at the same time, this is when most people start their, let's say, family phase, and women in particular reduce their workloads and employment percentages. And as part-time employees have fewer chances of being promoted, women aged between 31 and 40 are at a particular disadvantage. The second example I would like to look at you with addresses this intersectional approach.
Maybe we can also answer the two questions that came up in the chat. There's a first question: is it a global benchmark or a Swiss benchmark? It is a Swiss benchmark. There's we have around 100 companies participating each year, Swiss-based companies, and those companies have at least 100 employees, so that we also can guarantee that the key figures and the numbers that we have are not messing around with the averages in any way. The second question: does this platform integrate with success factors in real time, or does it rely on one-time data input? It is a one-time data input. So we look at always the end of the year, so end of December for each year, and that is like the standard that we use for each company participating. So that way we don't have. Otherwise, if we have like a real-time platform, we might have like industry averages that change from time to time, and we wanted to avoid that actually.
And if it reflects the current situation at the beginning of the year. Thank you, Rafael, for bringing this up. I didn't see the questions coming up, so much appreciated. If there is a question that you can just interrupt me, Rafael. That's
Sure.
perfect. Maybe for the second example here, I would like to look at you with something that addresses the mentioned intersectional approach. So we would like to promote part-time work in management positions. Are part-time employees at a disadvantage compared to full-time employees when it comes to promotions? Here we're going to have a look at the current distributions again, but gender specific. Same goes for the promotions then. And again, we have some in-depth key figures which are not going to explain any further, again, because of the time. But basically, we could also have a look at an index which compares directly if part-timers or full-timers are favored according to their share in the current workforce, which is also possible on the platform. I again switch to the platform to have a look at the key figures. So here we now look at the distribution by FTE levels in non-management and junior management, but again, gender specific. On the left, you will see the men's distribution, and on the right, you see the women. The part in purple shows the percentage of those who work full-time in those positions that they're in, so in non-management or in junior management, of course. And we see that in both levels, women proportionally work more part-time than men. So 72% of the men in non-management positions work full-time, 39% of the women in non-management work full-time. The distribution in junior management is very similar for both genders, which is very positive at first sight. So at least the women who work part-time in non-management have a realistic chance to get promoted into junior management, since there we have also a lot of part-timers on the female side. When we look at the men's distribution, however, we see that those with an FTE below 80%, which is not much, but still they will have problems to reach junior management positions if they don't change their FTE, because here the share is very, very low. When we now look at the distributions in senior management, which is down below, we now can compare the junior management with senior management. We see that no men and no women are working in an FTE below 80% in those positions. It seems that in my company, it is necessary to have an FTE of at least 80% in senior management. This seems to be no challenge for the men in our pipeline, which is the junior management, because the vast majority in these positions already work in these percentages and don't need to adapt their FTE situation. But the situation for the women is very different. In junior management, almost 40% of my female talent is working part-time. It's this part right here. But that means that the female talent is working part-time and is therefore no option for my senior management positions. So my female pipeline for senior management positions, which is probably already way smaller than my male pipeline, is getting even more reduced. So what we can say positive here, we have the option to work part-time in junior management, especially on the female side. However, the negative side, almost only women are using this option, which leads to unequal conditions between women and men when it comes to promotions into senior management, for example. Now with this, we can dive deeper into this. How do our promotions look like? Is there a specific age group where the differences between men and women increase, for example? And I I'm thinking here about those between 31 and 40 years, as I mentioned, and etc. You can really, or you have to dive deeper into the topic to figure out the exact lever that you can and want to change and build your concrete measures on. And this is, in such a dashboard like this, or in your own dashboards, you can always dive a little bit deeper, combine the diversity dimensions to have this intersectional approach to find the certain group which might be at a disadvantage here. Going back to the slides, I would now like to summarize this session and share the key takeaways with you. So we measure what we treasure. This also includes DE&I topics, as Raphael explained at the beginning. Only by including data, we can treat DE&I as a strategic asset that we can continuously improve. We recommend using different data sources and thus adopting a mixed method approach. One data source is, of course, the HSG diversity benchmarking, in which we present various types of key figures that Raphael also explained. These in turn provide different insights, but are aimed at addressing a specific topic and obtaining different perspectives. This allows you to determine the leverage for the next measures very precisely. If you have any questions afterwards, just contact us. We're happy to help and arrange a short call if needed. Thank you for being here, and see you next time.
Thank you for joining.